Alright, in this video we are going to be correcting sentence 4 and 5 under set 7. Sentence 4 says, the speed of sound, Mach 1, can be reached at sea level at around 742 mph. At 36,000 feet, the speed of sound becomes 661 mph. In this sentence, we have a run-on sentence. We're also going to add commas to show that we have an appositive phrase. We're going to fix abbreviation errors, and we're going to add a comma. So first, let's talk about our run-on sentence. So like we've discussed before, a run-on sentence is two complete sentences smashed into one without the correct punctuation. So we need to address this by adding that correct punctuation. So in order to do so, we have to identify the end of our first sentence and the beginning of the second. Typically, we can identify that break in the sentences by listening for a pause. So I'm going to read the sentence again, and I want you to try to listen for that pause. Again, the speed of sound, Mach 1, can be reached at sea level at around 742 mph. At 36,000 feet, the speed of sound becomes 661 mph. You probably heard a pause right after hour and before the word at. That's because hour marks the end of our first sentence and at marks the beginning of our second. So to correct this error, I'm going to add my punctuation. I'm going to use a period and I'll capitalize the A in at. Next, I need to add commas to show that I have an appositive. Remember, an appositive phrase is simply a noun phrase that renames another noun in a sentence. And that phrase is actually Mach 1. Mach 1 can be used to rename the phrase speed of sound. So I can show that Mach 1 is my appositive by adding my commas before and after Mach 1. Next, I have abbreviation errors to fix. The abbreviation errors are MP/hour, so I can fix this in one of two ways. I can spell out miles per, or I can add the periods in between the letters and replace hour with H. I'm going to do the second method, so I'm going to replace this incorrect abbreviation and I'm going to replace it with MPH. I'm going to do the same for this second error. And that would fix my abbreviation errors. And lastly, I'm going to add a comma. So now this comma is being used for an introductory clause. Again, we can typically figure out where punctuation belongs if we can listen for a pause. So I'm going to read this sentence again. And I'm going to read the second sentence in sentence 4, and I want you to listen for a pause again. It says, at 36,000 feet, the speed of sound becomes 661 mph. You probably heard a pause after that word feet. That's because the phrase, at 36,000 feet, is being used as an introductory clause. So I'm going to put my comma after feet. And now my fourth sentence is corrected. Let's take a look at sentence 5. It says, it should have been obvious when you visited that Lassie is the greatest dog in the world. Not only does she hang out with us, but she loves to wrestle. When she's finally tired, Lassie will take a nap with her head on your lap. In this sentence, we have a run-on. We're also going to add commas. We have something called non-standard language. And we have some capitalization errors to address. So first, let's take a look at our run-on sentence. Again, we have to locate the complete sentences and separate them by adding punctuation. I'm going to read our sentences again, and I want you to listen for natural pauses or breaks in the sentence because that's typically where one sentence ends and another begins. Listen. It should have been obvious when you visited that Lassie is the greatest dog in the world. Not only does she hang out with us, but she loves to wrestle. When she's finally tired, Lassie will take a nap with her head on your lap. You probably heard a pause after world and before not. That's because world marks the end of our first sentence. So I'm going to fix this run-on by adding a period after world and capitalizing the N in not. You also probably heard a pause after the word wrestle. Again, starting at not and ending at wrestle is a complete sentence, so I'm going to add the correct punctuation. And that would fix my run-on sentence. Next, we have some commas to add. So our first comma that we're adding is right before our fanboy but. Remember, when we have a complete sentence before and a complete sentence after the fanboy, we need to use a comma. So I'll add that comma before but. And we're also going to add a comma after tired. Just like in our last sentence, this phrase here, when she's finally tired, is being used as an introductory phrase. So we need to add that comma, and if you were to listen to the sentence read out loud again, you would probably notice a slight pause here again. So we know that comma belongs. Next, we have an error called non-standard language. When I explain this to students, I like to think of it as the grammatical errors that we typically speak in. And so when you read this sentence out loud, it probably sounded correct because many people say this when they talk. However, we need to address the error, and it's actually this word of. Many people say the phrase should of. It's actually should have. So I'm going to replace of with have. It should have been obvious. And lastly, I have some capitalization errors to address. So I'm going to go through my sentence here, and I'm going to capitalize my proper noun, which is Lassie. And now my sentence 5 has been corrected. If you have any questions about how or why we've corrected our sentences the way we have, please feel free to reach out and I'll be sure to answer your questions as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, everyone.